I never considered myself a man driven by revenge. I believed in reason, in giving the benefit of the doubt, in the quiet strength of forgiveness. But that belief so deeply rooted in me collapsed like a house of cards on a seemingly ordinary Saturday night at an upscale party hosted by one of Lydia's colleagues. That evening began with all the sparkle of a perfect memory. We had been married for 8 years, and though the cracks had begun to show lately, I still held tight to the belief that we were partners, a team navigating life together. Lydia walked beside me, her arm entwined with mine, her silver cocktail dress catching the light from the chandelier above, like tiny stars dancing across silk. Her laughter, vibrant and free, turned heads as we moved through the crowd. She was radiant, magnetic. I felt that familiar warmth of pride swell in my chest. This beautiful, intelligent, vivacious woman was mine. The party itself was a haze of clinking glasses, polite laughter, and introductions. It was then that I met him, Mark, broad-shouldered, confident in that smug, practiced way of a man who thrives on attention. Lydia had mentioned him in passing. A new member of her team, smart, ambitious, charismatic. That night, he seemed polite enough, but the way his eyes roamed a little too long over Lydia's neckline didn't sit right with me. Still, I told myself I was imagining it. Paranoia, insecurity, surely nothing more. But as the evening wore on, I noticed the way their conversations lingered, how their laughter seemed to float above the music, to synchronized, to personal. Lydia's cheeks glowed with a flush that had nothing to do with champagne. My smile faltered with each passing hour, though I forced it back onto my face, hiding my growing unease behind another drink. Then I saw it. I was returning from the bar, drink in hand, when I noticed them standing near the balcony. Lydia was facing away from me, her body tilted slightly toward Mark. He stood too close. His hand rested on the small of her back, lower than it had any right to be. And then, in one seamless, casual motion, I watched his hand disappear under the hem of her skirt. Lydia didn't recoil. She didn't even flinch. She leaned in closer. Her lip caught between her teeth in a way that once belonged only to me. My chest constricted. The glass in my hand felt heavy, my fingers numb. For a few moments, I couldn't breathe. I stood frozen, anchored in disbelief. Surely I was wrong, misinterpreting what I saw. But no, there was no denying the expression on her face, or the smug satisfaction on his. The rage that followed was volcanic. But I didn't erupt. I didn't make a scene. I turned and left, quiet and unnoticed, the fury in my chest cooling into something colder, something calculated. The days that followed were a blur of false smiles and quiet observation. Lydia carried on as though nothing had happened, as if she hadn't shattered everything we'd built. Her ability to feign normalcy was astonishing and nauseating. I said nothing, not yet. Confrontation would only lead to lies and manipulation. I needed more than accusations. I needed truth, evidence, leverage. She wasn't as careful as she thought. Her phone, left unattended while she showered, offered me the answers I feared. A string of messages, flirtatious, intimate, painted the full picture. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was an ongoing betrayal. Months of it. Mark, as it turned out, was married. His wife, Rebecca, was a quiet woman I had met once at a company event. She deserved better, just as I had. I contacted her anonymously, providing only enough to raise her suspicion. What followed was a partnership born of shared pain and a single, focused purpose: to expose them both. We planned everything meticulously: a dinner party, a celebration of Lydia's supposed promotion, an evening for couples, Rebecca and Mark, Lydia and me. Lydia was delighted at the idea, excited. Even, she asked me which wine would pair best with the meal. The irony tasted bitter. That evening, I played the perfect host. I smiled, served drinks, told stories. Rebecca matched my composure, both of us hiding the storm beneath the surface. Lydia and Mark were their usual selves, flirting behind fake glances, exchanging subtle touches and stifled grins, drunk on their own secrecy. They had no idea the dining room was wired. Rebecca's idea had been genius. I had installed the cameras and microphones myself, concealing them in corners, behind decor. Every detail in high definition, every word and whisper captured. Their laughter, their affection, their carelessness, it was all documented. Midway through dinner, I stood and excused myself to retrieve dessert. Rebecca followed moments later. We shared a brief look, one of mutual understanding and shared resolve, then returned to the table. I raised my glass, smiling, to trust and transparency. I said smoothly. Lydia hesitated, just a flicker. Before raising her own, Mark followed suit, unaware his world was moments from collapse. We barely touched our dessert. The tension was thick now. I set my fork down and leaned back, my voice calm and resolute. There's something I'd like to share. Lydia looked up, her face unreadable for a split second, until I lifted the remote from the table and pressed play. The television on the wall flickered to life. The image was frozen, a still frame from the balcony. Her and Mark, her dress, his hand. She went pale. "What is this?" she whispered. "Evidence," I said, and pressed play. The room fell into silence. The footage played uninterrupted, exposing every illicit touch, every stolen glance, every damning moment. Rebecca's face turned to stone, her eyes narrowing on her husband. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," she said to Mark, her voice calm but deadly. "And don't even think about coming home tonight." Mark opened his mouth to protest, but she cut him off with a glare so fierce it silenced him completely. Lydia, meanwhile, crumbled. Her voice broke, tears spilling down her face as she begged for forgiveness, claiming it meant nothing, that it had been a mistake, that she still loved me. I didn't flinch. "There's no salvaging this," I said quietly. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed our marriage, our trust, and you did it without hesitation." I stood, my chair scraping softly against the floor. "The divorce papers are ready. I'll be filing them in the morning. And don't expect to leave this marriage with anything more than what you brought into it. I've made sure of that." Her sobs echoed after me as I walked away, but I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, just clarity. The aftermath was swift. Rebecca followed through on her word, dragging Mark through a brutal divorce that left his career in ruins. He resigned in disgrace. Lydia tried reaching out in the days that followed, calls, messages, long emails full of apologies and desperate pleas. I ignored them all. I had nothing left to say. I moved to a new city, started fresh, found a new job, a new apartment, and a peace I hadn't known in years. It hurt, of course. Betrayal always does. But in that pain, I discovered a freedom I never expected. The weight of mistrust, the fog of doubt, it all lifted. Revenge didn't erase the past, but it did balance the scales, and in that balance, I found something close to healing.